What's up, Norberg Nation? How's it going? So in today's video, we are going to be reviewing the one time that I almost won a world championship. A little bit of backstory before we get into this video. This was the IAME International Final, also kind of dubbed as the IAME World Championship. And this is one of the largest races in the world. At least for X30 Senior, it is one of the biggest races that you'll find anywhere in the world. This event had 144 drivers entered in just the X30 Senior category. So we actually started this event on a Saturday, and then we practiced on a Sunday, Monday. We qualified on a Tuesday, and then did heats Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then our pre-final and final was held on a Saturday. It is a super long, stressful weekend because basically if you crash in one of your 7 heat races, you're basically eliminated from the race. It's super hard to make it back up through that and to try and even have a chance at winning this race. So this was a super long, stressful weekend, but we survived all the heats and we started the pre-final 11th. After the pre-final, we finished 3rd, and now you're watching the start of the final where we start the race 3rd. This race takes place in Le Mans, France. So this was a track that I wasn't super familiar with. This race was the first time I had been to this track, been to that country. So it was all a big learning curve for me, but we had some speed, and that's the most important part. So let's get right into this race review. So at this race, you're not allowed to run cameras as part of the CIK FIA ruling. You're not allowed to have cameras on your go-kart. So I'm going to be reviewing the kind of the outside live stream of the event, and you can see exactly what's going on as well. But starting in the 3rd position, obviously this was kind of one of the first years, a year or so after they had developed the drop-down bumper, and this was kind of one of the first times I had really used it in like a good racing situation, and so I was super cautious on that start and didn't want to get, drive into the driver in front of mine's bumper, Oliver Hodgson, who was leading the race at the time. And I didn't really want to, start anything too early. Tried to settle into 2nd place there through that chicane and just really wanted to get the kart underneath me. A lot of the times you go to these races and because you have such a long week leading up to it, that first opening lap, everybody's super tense and super excited and really nervous, and so everybody, that intensity's high and everybody wants to get going, but in my head I thought the best thing to do would just be to try and keep my head calm, and just to try and get in position and not fall back super far. One thing that I will say that's pretty important to my race is that in the heat races I was having a bit of an aero wash. Anytime I'd get behind another driver, I would lose the front end of the kart pretty bad. And because of that, we dropped the front nose cone to the lowest setting. The issue is now every time that I got on the straightaway, and we did this a session before the final, every time I'd get on the front straightaway, my nose cone would drag on the straightaway. So it made me really slow on the straightaways. But I actually didn't have aero wash, and you see there I go make a pass to the inside. That was because we were driving earlier in the race, and there was some dirt on the track, and so I decided I need to get back to the lead. But got to the lead. Again, you see they just close a lot of that time back down at the end of the straightaway there. Come through here, a little bit of the slide to that right-hander, and that really hurt me because everybody got a good run on me coming onto the straightaway. And right about here is where that nose cone starts to drag, and before I could even really look over and react, they had already passed me down the inside, and so I went from 1st to leading the race down to 5th at this point. Kind of fight it off a little bit, so I hold that 5th position. And honestly, I just wanted to stay calm because these races get super intense. I've watched these races before. They always get really racy, and I thought that's where this race was going. You can see the drivers are bumping into one another behind the leader there. That's Sean Babington leading the race. And a lot of these drivers as well, I hadn't raced against the whole weekend. I did one session with like a few of these drivers, and other than the pre-final, this is the first time I'm really experiencing how they race, where they like to make passes, and so it's really something that you're just learning. And like, for instance, Sean Babington, who's blocking down the inside, I set up on the outside. That was the first time I had raced him. Right here you see I go to the outside there in that corner. It's kind of a risky move, but like I said, in other videos, when the drivers stack up on the inside, you can kind of pop the outside and ride that outside, and you can get by some drivers. Looking to those drivers up front, they're blocking and defending, and that's bringing me back into the race. The biggest issue that I had with my driving, looking back on it, is I was super cautious. The one driver gets run wide there. I try to go to the inside of Oliver Hodgson there. He kind of fights me off, but like I said, I was just being super cautious. Everybody's nervous, and I wanted to finish the race because you put so much effort into that race and so much time and everything into it, and you just don't want to end up not finishing. And so I was super cautious early in the race, and I wish I was a little bit more aggressive because I could have moved up a couple positions. But you see there, I'm in the third position. I start to defend down into here, into that third to last corner, just because I didn't want to fall back any further. Again, I was getting kind of hesitant out there. I wasn't going forward and wasn't keeping my momentum going forward. I'd get forward and then get shuffled back 2 positions, and then I'd get forward again and lose that time. You see again, I'm kind of defending at the end of the straightaway. That again is because of that bumper dragging, and it was really slowing me up. And right here, I hesitated to block, but this driver, I should have known he was going to go there because in the pre-final he did that same move, and that's a corner you can't really pass in. It's super hard to pass in that corner, but I was like, you know what, I've got to try and open the door so I can maybe run these drivers down in front of me, and he made me pay for it. You know, he passed me in the corner that I knew he was going to go in, and so fall back to fourth again, and I just need to, again, get back in the rhythm and try and chase down these front drivers. Oliver Hodgson, who's the leader at the time right now, he was super quick all week, and so once we got to this point, it was kind of just a race for second. I mean, he was super fast, super consistent. He's almost won this race so many different times, and so he was super hard to get in front of the whole week. And so once he got that big lead, it was kind of like everybody understood it was a race for second at that point. But doesn't mean I'm giving up. You know, I want to try and get in front of these guys. The biggest problem, though, is the driver that just passed me. He's not really that quick. You know, we're quicker than the Tony Kart in front of us, but we're not that fast with this driver in front of me. And I felt super quick through the infield section, probably because, you know, I had so much downforce, I would say, through the corners because it did drag on the straightaway. So I don't know why, but I was super fast through the infield. You see right there, he goes to the inside of the Tony Kart driver, and then I go to the inside of that guy as well. So that puts me up into the third position. And another thing that I didn't really know about European racing, because I had raced towards the front, you know, towards the back half of the front group in most European races that I went to, but they don't work together like you do in the United States. You know, sometimes in the States, when you get behind a guy and you see the leaders checked out, you try and work together, you try and push. And so that was something I wanted to do here, but as I learned, as I went through this whole event, nobody does that over there, and they all are just going forward. They're always just passing and going forward as much as they can. And so that was something that really kind of, you know, was different for me and was hard for me to learn as I went through this week. And here in this final, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and push this driver. You know, maybe we can run down Oliver Hodgson way out there in the front. It'd be a long shot if we did, but it was something I was willing to try. But again, I'm getting held up so much through the infield by this driver. At least I feel like I am. I was like, I got to go out in front and try and take, you know, advantage of this opportunity right there. Go to the inside, quick pass. But right as I get back on the straightaway, I just get such a bad drag from that front bumper. They just pull out super quick. It was nice to have him in front of me because when I'd get on the straightaway, it would cut that wind that was getting pushed down on my nose. And so I was able to not have the bumper drag that bad when I was behind people. But when I was out front on my own, then it would drag super hard. You saw that right there. As soon as I got the lead, they'd pass right back. And so I was in this tough spot where I'm like, okay, I have to push, but I also have to try and get us faster through the infield because that's where I feel like I'm super, super strong. So again, right at this spot, trying to weigh out what I should do here because I got a driver pressuring me from behind. I need to go forward. I need to get ahead of this one driver that's in front of me. So I'm just going to try and catch back up. And obviously this time, not going to try and spend too much time behind him. I'm just going to try and get in front of him as quick as possible. And hopefully he gets kind of mixed in with the drivers behind me. He's really aggressive too. You know, that pass that he made earlier on me is not a corner that you really pass in that much. That's why I was so surprised by it. So he's really wanting to get going forward. He's wanting to be in front of this group. And so I know that if I need to get in front of him, I've got to try and somehow get him shuffled back behind a few drivers so he doesn't pass me back immediately. But staying on his bumper right here through this section, this double left section and down into the chicane. This part right here, I felt, you know, pretty strong. I made a few passes on some drivers in here during the final, but it wasn't really, you know, the best area I felt like because a lot of drivers couldn't really follow you through on it. I wanted to do it in a place where I could get a few drivers maybe to go through with me as well. Unfortunately, the racing still behind me. I looked to go right here again, but it didn't didn't pan out as I'd like to. You know, I passed him there earlier, so I've got to try and get by him in a different spot. Right here, though, he makes a little mistake in that fast, flat-out left-hander, and I actually surprisingly get a good run on the straightaway. But again, as soon as I pulled out, I just kind of stopped, and those other drivers had to push me through. But it worked out like I had wanted to, because I got at least one driver in front of him, and so I was able to, you know, hold that gap a little bit and run at least fast enough through the infield, you know, as I could. You know, I felt a lot quicker now that I had nobody in front of me holding me up. But now I'm stuck in a spot where I'm in the front of the group and I have terrible straight speed because I just have that bumper dragging. And so, you know, you can already see through the infield I'm pulling a little bit of a gap like I thought I would. You know, I felt really quick. Down this back straightaway, it wasn't such a problem on the back straightaway, I think, because the wind was going the opposite direction. You see that driver behind me gets a little wide right there, and that gives me quite a bit of space. But like I said, the back straightaway wasn't so bad. I think it was just because the wind was going the opposite direction. It was a tailwind on the back straightaway, and then on the front it was a headwind. So on the front straightaway it was a big problem, where on the back it wasn't so bad. But right here I get a good gap, and again, I think this is where I make another mistake this race, because I'm looking back and seeing that these drivers are following further and further away, and instead of just continuing to push and continuing to drive hard, I get kind of nervous because I'm like, oh, I'm in second place, biggest race of my life, I'm in second place, odds are I'm probably not going to catch the leader. I need to just try and conserve and not make mistakes. The problem is when you don't make mistakes, you drive a little bit easier, and I just start falling a little bit off the pace as the laps go on. And at this point, you know, we're only 9-10 laps into the race, a 20-lap race. They've got enough time to chase me back down, and so I get kind of complacent in this spot, and I'm happy with the fact that I'm just, you know, there, and that's something that really bothered me. And after this race, I actually do change, you know, my driving style quite a bit, and I think that's why nowadays you guys see me always attacking. Even when I'm in the lead, I'm pushing as hard as I can because of this race, because there's, you know, times where I had a good spot and I got complacent, and it really just, you know, didn't help me at all. It ended up hurting me quite a bit because as these laps go on, these drivers do catch back up to me. So we'll just skip to that point. I think quite a few more laps go by before they actually catch me, so we'll skip to that point. And so heading on to the front straightaway, I think this time Bahia has 3 to go, and the driver behind me does catch up to me. Louis Westover, he was pretty quick. He actually was purple the last like 2 laps, so he was the fastest driver. I was maintaining with Oliver Hodgson up front. You know, we'd trade a 10th or a few hundredths here and there, but, you know, I was just kind of staying in that same spot. I wasn't going, you know, fast enough to catch him back down. But I know I was slow on the straightaway, but I didn't feel super slow through this point. And so I was like, you know, I'm going to defend a little bit here. Obviously, it's the end of the race, and this is where I make a big mistake. I way overslow the corner, and Louis Westover just sends it right around the outside and just embarrasses me. And so that was a big mistake because I blocked and just way overslowed it because I thought he wasn't going to do anything creative. And so at this point now he's defending. I really don't want to be in this position. He goes a little bit tight through there. I set up really wide, and because he surprised me, I was like, let's surprise him back and pass him in that second to last corner there. The unfortunate part is I did lose another spot to Dean McDonald, who was in that second position on the Tony kart. I was able to get back ahead of Louis Westover, but, you know, I gained a position and lost a position, so I'm just right back in the same spot again. But I tried to get, you know, settled back down because I want to try and at least finish second. You know, the race, again, like I said, is for second place. I got a little bit of breathing room on Louis Westover right now. He had a little bit of a bobble out of that last corner, and so I didn't block down into this corner. I knew I had some space. I'm just trying to catch down Dean McDonald in that second position because that's the race for me right now. And again, he was a driver that I was quite a bit quicker than the whole final. You know, I was racing around him. I knew my pace was better than him. He just kind of got up there because I was, you know, blocking for a few corners, and I had that racing incident with Louis Westover, and so he was able to get in front of me. But I knew I had some speed on this driver, and so I wanted to make sure I could close that gap. And with 1 to go, he starts to defend right here. Getting closer onto his bumper, I obviously wasn't able to make the pass going into that first corner. Couldn't make it into this right-hander here. I'm looking maybe down into the hairpin because that's going to be the only big opportunity that I'm going to have this whole lap because I'm pretty sure he's going to close the door everywhere else. Going down through this, you know, fast left-right right here. Going to look to make something happen down here on the outside, but obviously he broke later than I did, so it was kind of impossible. Go to do the switchback over. Don't get a good run. Right here, I tried to pop down to the inside to beat him onto the straightaway, but he crossed down quick enough and was able to, defend me pretty well. They cut to the leader, and in those last couple corners, he defends, obviously, and I try to do what I did to Louis Westover. We kind of get together in the middle of the corner there. I just didn't have enough. He knew that it was coming because I did it earlier to another driver, so he saw that it was coming, and he just defended it, and yeah, I wasn't able to cross him back over. I wasn't able to get that second position. The big thing that I learned from this race is that you always have to be attacking. And this is something, again, that I've taken on with me as I've grown as a driver and developed as a driver. This race really showed me that when you get happy just being in second or third, you end up losing more positions, and the race just becomes much tougher. And in this instance, this was a case that I was happy to be up front. I worked really hard this whole week. Did a ton of laps, did a ton of heat races. I was super stressed, and when I got into second place, I was okay being in second, and I was happy with this position. But that's not the best scenario. You always want to be racing for the win, because even though I was not gonna catch the leader, even if I was just a half-tenth faster a lap, I wouldn't have had to fight for that second position, and I probably would have been able to hold on to that second place and not have fallen back to third. But you live and you learn, and that's part of racing. Even at the biggest stages, you got to be able to capitalize on it, because you never know when an opportunity like that will come around again. So there you have it. That was the one time I almost won a world championship. There's another time I almost won a world championship, which was the Rotax Grand Final. So maybe we watch that race as well and review that one. But that's for another day. Make sure to let me know down below if there's a race that you guys want me to review. Maybe it's of your guys' race, or maybe it's another one of my races that you guys have seen on my channel that I haven't reviewed yet. Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to follow me on my Instagram, my Facebook, and my TikTok. I posted a lot of awesome racing content on there, so make sure to follow those as well. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot knowing that you guys are supporting this channel, and again, supporting this content that I'm putting out there for you guys. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.